So Lambda statements and Lambda expressions are similar to anonymous functions, if you are familiar with those. Um, Basically, we can kind of create a simple method or function, little routine, um, without having to specify the input value, and we don't have to specify the actual return statement. And there's a couple different ways that you can create Lambda expressions. The left side of the expression is typically the input, and the right side is the expression itself. And the symbol that you use looks like an arrow. It's an equal sign followed by a greater than sign. Okay, so you've got the input with the lambda and then the expression that you want executed. Okay, and if it is going to return a value, you have an assignment statement. Okay, so here, let's say I wanted to square a number. Okay, so I'm going to have a value returned. So I've got, a variable declared, and I set that equal to, and then this is my lambda expression. Okay, on the left, I've got the input, and on the right, I've got the arithmetic that is going to be performed. And I don't need a method name, okay, and I don't need a return statement. Okay, so how do I use this? So this expression, this equation is being stored in this case, val squared. So I can simply use val squared and pass it an integer. So I can do this. Okay, and then that number 5 is going to run through here. We're going to do 5 times 5, and it's going to display 25. Okay, so that is called expression syntax. If you are going to have the lambda execute multiple lines, then you're going to use statement syntax. So you still are going to have the input on the left of the lambda operator. But then, because you have more than one statement, you're going to have curly braces, and each statement is going to be followed by a semicolon. So here, I've got a variable that's going to store the result called sum result. And I've got that equal to, and here is my full lambda. Okay, so I've got two different integers. That's my input. And then you can see I've got something called calc sum, where I am storing the two numbers added together. And then I explicitly am returning it just so I can show you what statement syntax looks like. Okay, so, and then to use this, it's simply the variable name. And then in parentheses, you do have to pass that input data. So here is where it's being used. So we're going to look at a little programming example here. And the example does use arrays, and we are using the count method, which is available in collections and in arrays. And so what count will do is it will count the number of occurrences. So here you can see when we take the name of the array.count, it's going to count how many are in there. But you can actually count very specific things with the count method. And this little example basically is going to count the number of occurrences of cat in the array. Okay, and you can see there's 2, so that is what it would be storing here. Okay, and so we're gonna look at a similar example. Okay, here is the lambda in the expression, and here's the input. And that is coming from count. So what count is going to be doing is it's going to be retrieving each value that is in that animal array and checking the value to see if it's equal to cat. We're going to be doing something similar. Okay, so let's look at that example. So here in this example, we have an array of 50 numbers, and we're filling it in with random numbers. Okay? And then we're sorting them. And then we print out the sorted numbers. And then we get into this little while loop where we're asking to select a number between 1 and 20, and they'll tell us how many occurrences of that number there are in 50 random numbers. Okay? And so here we are entering the value and validating it to make sure it is a number and between 1 and 20. And then here is the lambda. Okay? And so value is the number that they entered, and X is the number that it's retrieving from the array. And we are checking to see if X, the number from the array, is equal to the value that was keyed in. And if it is, it adds 1 to the count. So it goes through all 50 of those numbers and stores the total over here. And then that gets printed out, and they're asked if they want to do it again. Okay, so that is the first example. Here's a sample run. And here is another example. This has got several lambdas. The first one is a sum variable, and that is storing a lambda that adds 2 integers. We've got a result variable that is storing a lambda that subtracts 2 integers. And then we have a variable called larger value that is storing a statement, a lambda statement, that is returning the largest number. Okay, and so here it is going through our little array, and it's going to go through every element in the array. And it's going to basically look at the current number and the next number. Okay, and here it is passing the current number and the next number to sum, and it's adding them. Okay, and it's doing the same thing here for result. So number sub x is the current number. And then you can see we've got x plus 1, so it's grabbing the next number. Okay, and for larger value, it's doing the same thing. It's taking the current number and the next number that is in the list. Okay, so you can see that instead of doing numbers.length, we are doing numbers.length minus 1 because we are grabbing the next value, and we don't want to go beyond the end of the array. Okay, and so it's calling these variables that are storing the expressions. Okay, and all of these can be copied and run just so you can see what they do. We'll do this one. This one is pretty much all automated because it's going to generate the array. Okay, and then this is the first number in the array and the next one, and you can see it adds them, it subtracts them, it tells us which one is bigger. Okay, and then 3 becomes the first one. It grabs the one after the 3, does the same thing, and so on until, it gets to the end. And we'll take a look at this one too, which actually may be more fun. Okay. This one's a little interactive. So it's going to create that array of 50 numbers, which we print out so we can, make sure that the program is running correctly. So I'm going to look for number 5. And there are 3. Part of the reason I sorted this is so that you can verify that it's working correctly. And let's check for 11. Oh, sorry. Would you like to? Okay, now we'll enter 11. There are three. Okay, so I think we're going to quit to end. So you guys can play with these if you want, but that is Lambda expressions.